Hey there, folks. So, last episode we wrapped up things with the inventory interface. This episode, I want to wrap up the last of the stuff regarding inventory in general. Just simply because there's not much more I can add right now. There's other components we need to work on, things like we need to work on items in more detail, stuff like that. And with that, like I said, I want to get the last couple of loose ends tied off, and then we're next episode we'll be moving on to, as per the results of the vote, it is the environment system. But this episode, we're going to start off by finishing up the transfer item from inventory. Rename that actually. No, I'm going to. Do I want to rename that? Add item. Don't have that in the interface yet. That was the other thing. But anyway, so how I wanted to go about that is basically we want a pointer to the target. So it's going to be a pointer target. I'm going to get rid of the header declaration there, so we actually have to go through and do things with it. So what we're going to do here is, first of all, add in a null pointer check, obviously. So if is valid, target, well, we want if not valid, we're going to return. Actually, this needs to be a Boolean. So this is going to be bool. This will be obviously a bool, and this is going to return false because it failed. Now, how do we want to go about this? So we want to effectively, it is adding it from one inventory and removing it to removing it from one inventory and adding it to the other. So remove item from inventory, we have item ID and quantity, and then add item to inventory, item data, quantity, durability. So what we're going to want to do here is grab these two. Trying to think. That's add item to inventory, and that's remove item. So we're storing an item ID. So again, this is something we're not going to be able to fully flesh out until we get to adding in what is going to be our item database or data asset. So how do we want to flesh this out? Well, let's do this in comments to start with. So we want to add item to target and remove item from self. So with that, what we're going to need to do for our add item to slot and inventory, actually we're going to need drag and drop. Okay, so I'm going to copy all of these. Now we're not going to use all of them. We don't need durability. That's stored locally. Index is going to have a default value of -1. The reason being for that is we want to use this component or this function for both add to inventory and add to inventory slot, basically. So I'm going to re-grab all of this and go back to our source file and back down to where it's throwing an error now. So first and foremost, we're going to, well, this isn't item data, this is item ID. So we're going to and where is remove that item ID. I grabbed the wrong thing there. It's an F name. Okay, so first thing we need to do is, I'm going to add at the end here, return true. If not, remove item from inventory. And that is item data, which I need to change the name on that, and quantity. So that's item ID. And just for consistency, even though it should build, and I didn't copy the capitalized I, which means this, yep. So then so this is a return false. So if we haven't been able to remove it from our inventory, we obviously want to return false. But what do we need here? So we need to, because if we take a look at a remove item, it's just a true or false. So inventory contents is inventory slot. So we're going to put that down here. Why are you complaining? And I forgot to change that in here, didn't I? Yeah. Okay, back to this. So we need to see if we've removed it from the inventory. But before that, we need to F inventory slot temp storage. Temp item, sorry, equals inventory contents. No, that's not. We need to find the item, which means we need a function for that. Drop item to world. Those are our helper functions. Add item to inventory, add item to slot, remove item from slot, transfer item, that's what we're working on. I'm going to leave that open. Update slot count. Okay, so int temp index equals -1 for int I equals 0. I less than I plus plus. If inventory contents I dot item ID equals item ID, temp index equals I, break. If temp index equals -1, return false. Okay, so is target valid? What index is the item at? Did we find the item? Okay. Copy item data. Let's say if this failed to remove, we're going to say return false, do nothing else. Okay, sorry. So just adding a note to do fix once data manager is. So if we failed to remove it, don't do anything. if we have removed it, what we want to do there is target dot add item to inventory, temp item, quantity, and then that is, no, not temp item, that is, no, that is temp item. What do we call? Oh no, I've got this in the wrong place. That is item to move. Item to move, quantity, temp item, durability. Well, what about that index? So what we're going to do it here is if index less than 0, and doing lowercase yet. Else target add item to slot, item to move, quantity, temp item dot current durability index. So both of these are integer returns. It's how many were added. So what we need, int number remaining equals temp item dot quantity. No, equals quantity. Because that's how many were, number remaining is quantity. Then what we want to do here, because we need this exposed, is we add this back, well, we set this here. If number remaining greater than 0, add item to inventory. No, add item to slot. That is item to move, number remaining, temp item dot current durability, and then that is going to be temp index. Actually, we don't need to do that there. And that is it for this function. Now, obviously, we do have a glaring issue right now. As I mentioned, we don't have our item data lookup because we don't have our data manager class created. Yes, some may think that's sort of within scope of the inventory system, but at the same time, I'm going to say it's not, because that is something that is used by more than just the inventory system, just like our spawn helpers here, called World Spawn Manager. So let me just quickly, can we remove item? Yeah, it is Boolean. I just, for some reason, I thought that was an integer. Grab the item data. How many did we have have left after the move. Oh, no, how many we have to move. All right, sorry, I just want to get these comments in. And unfortunately, talking and typing, I tend to type what I'm saying. So just to run through this before I move on to the last little bit of code for, or work for this episode. So what we have for our inbound function is we have TF inventory component target. This is target inventory. I'm going to be renaming that for clarity. So if first thing we do, we check, is it a valid inventory? If it is, perfect. If it's not, we return saying we failed to do everything or anything. Then, okay, we need to find the index of the item we're trying to move so we know which one we're grabbing. And actually, I'm going to rename target index to target index as well while we're here. Target index. Again, for clarity in the code. So we iterate through. If we find it at the specific slot, we just break out of the for loop. And a little tip here, Visual Studio has something similar, but if you highlight the break, you can see it's also highlighted the for. So it tells you what's being broken out of. If we did not find the item, because the index is still -1, we say return false. We didn't have this item. Again, this shouldn't happen, but this is a catch case for those rare circumstances. Then we get the item data for that, slot data, I should say, for that. And let's go to that quickly. So slot data stores the item ID, the quantity, the durability, and the weight, a bunch of other things. And this may be expanded. It'll probably have things like the icon and stuff like that once we get there. Then we try to remove it from our local inventory. And that's with the item ID and the quantity. Item ID? Yeah. Now, the reason for this is we may have multiple stacks. We want to just use our remove from inventory. Then we grab the item data. As I said, we need to come back and address this once the data manager is created. How many did we have to move? How many do we have to move? Number remaining equals quantity. So let's go target index. And that was target inventory. And actually add item to slot, we don't need to go through all of this, because if we go to the declaration here, I hate how it doesn't let me do it even there. Add item to slot. We have an index of -1, which is just our catch-all anyways. So going back to that, we don't need all of this. We can just do target index. So because our default value for target index is -1, we can pass this through because that's also our catch case in the add item to slot. Now, if this comes back as 0, which means everything was added, if number remaining greater than 0, okay, so anyways, to go back to, I'm going through this, add item to target inventory, target index defaults to -1, 4. Actually, I don't need to include that there. So, number remaining, how many were we able to successfully add? Did we move all of them? If we didn't, we need to add some back to our current inventory, and we're just going to throw it back exactly where it was. So that's our temp index that we iterate through here. We know it's going to be a valid index because if it's not, we haven't hit this code yet. We have the item to move. We've already pulled that in. Now we could, in theory, if you wanted to, just push this back in, which I'm very tempted to do. But we have a function for this. We have all the data we need for this. So I think I'm going to think on this one, but for now I'm going to use this because that function's already there. We don't need to bulk this up any further. And then we simply say we're good. So this is where I'm going to leave that transfer item from inventory, obviously. Now, what else do I have left to do? Well, the last thing we need to do is add this to our character. So we're going to go to our TF character module, TF character base. I believe this is the one. Yeah. So what we want to do here is, let's grab it from here. I want it from the header, sorry. UTF inventory component. We're going to add this in as a forward declaration. Don't know why I did it there. So class UTF inventory component. I'm going to add it in here, inventory component, and I'm going to copy all of this. Why did I put that in the movement region? I don't want to put it in the movement region. This is going to be inventory. So we have this here. Obviously, we don't need to include the header, but we do need to reference it here in the character. Now, I had mentioned previously in the last episode that there is ways you can do this sort of anonymously. But it gets a little complicated. I haven't tried it yet, but I've been looking through documentation and stuff of where you can say, I have this generic uActor component, which ultimately is what I would love to do. That's the whole point of the modularity. I'm going to do a little more digging on that, but I'm not sure on the specifics of it yet enough that I want to try. So for now, we are just going to add in another component, and this is TF inventory, or another module reference. Now, if you notice, I've added this as a private dependency module. So that means no other module that may be dependent on TF characters will know about TF inventory. So, but back to our TF character base, we need to go to our source file. Include, if I could spell that right. Wow. Include TF inventory public inventory component. And actually thinking about that, I can probably make a lot of these private. We don't need, no, we're going to leave that there. So in our constructor, we do need to assign this. So inventory component equals create default subactor, UTF inventory component text equals inventory. Well, all well and good here. We have the inventory component, but we need to expose it. Now, this is where right now I'm going to be doing this in a bit of a weird way. So U function blueprint callable, U actor component pointer get characters inventory. Now, the reason for this const is, again, as I mentioned, we threw an interface on there. The interface means we don't need to know about it specifically being a TF inventory component. It can just be an actor component and then subsequently the interface. So this is one way. The other way I was thinking about doing it is inventory. Is that what a U inventory? I inventory. The other way, anyways, sorry, while I talk about, I'll explain this instead of just doing it. The other way you could possibly do it is you could just pass a reference to the U inventory interface and get it as an interface. The problem is there, we already have the inventory component referenced on the character. So it's a little convoluted and we're sort of doubling up on things. So with that though, character base, I'm going to get rid of that. So now we could just do this as a header file, which would be force inline return static cast U actor component. I threw an extra one in there. I believe this is what we want. Inventory component. What's it complain about? Cannot cast range. Oh, needs to be a complete class. So I'm going to not do this as a header only. So it means get rid of the force inline. Let's try it here. Return static cast UTF U actor component inventory component. So the static cast isn't needed. Actor component is the base class for the component, blah, 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 blah. So we don't need to. The reason why I was trying about putting this here is I wasn't sure if it would treat it as, let's see, is that going to complain? No. So this is just going to return the inventory component as a U actor component. So let's run a quick build here. Now I'm going to pause the video. We're going to make sure this, let this build run. And if it builds, we're good. If not, we'll fix any issues. So I will be back momentarily. All right, so it did come back with a build error. And I'll be honest, I took a little minute to look through just to figure out what was going on because it threw me off for a second. But this goes back to what I was talking about private dependencies and public dependencies. So in here, you can see private dependency modules. And to be clear, this is for the TF inventory inventory module. We have TF items as a private dependency. So let's cut that out a second and throw that into a public dependency. And let's see if this build still fails. Now, to explain, the reason being is that I'm pretty sure that was the issue, is the inventory generated character base component interfaces. All right, so this goes back, and I can prove it's that one as well. Cut this, and we'll throw it up here. So anyways, what I was saying is private dependency modules don't fix the fact that certain things are required. Okay, it's now fixing the build error. So the difference there is, and this is sort of breaking my whole modularity. Oh, I might have to revisit this. The Unreal build, I won't build. So the build finally succeeded there. So, anyways, going back to my comment just then about this is breaking my modularity. I was trying to do it so the TF character didn't need to know about TF items, didn't need to know about, well, potentially the component interface. It does need to know about the component interfaces, to be honest, but this shows that private dependency because these two items were there. Nothing else could see it was needed, and it was throwing build errors. So as a result, these two have now had to become public dependencies. Again, what that is resulting in, it's a little hard to put this into words, but TF character, if we open this up, because it knows about TF inventory is using TF items and component interfaces, it needs to know about these two. And that's where you get these nested dependencies, for lack of a better term. Now, it doesn't break the whole other purpose of these modules, of it helps build times. Because character knows about inventory and items and component interfaces. Knows about inventory, which means it then knows about items and component interface. It still only needs to be rebuilt if one of these changes. If, for example, something changed in seasonal events, because I'm just using that as an example because it's there, it doesn't need to be rebuilt. Now again, that's sort of a bit of pain in the butt because if we change TF items, then inventory needs to be rebuilt and character needs to be rebuilt. So I'm going to, off camera, spend a little more time looking into that anonymous component. And what that would be is instead of create default sub-object, this being create default sub-object UTF inventory component, it would be something else. And I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's like inventory component equals new I can't remember exactly what it is, but there was a process in there where you could create something, but from what I could see, you still needed to know its class, which again defeated the purpose for me. So, but anyways, folks, I'm going to end this episode off here. As I mentioned off camera, I'm going to do some more research into that component stuff, but this marks the end of the inventory module for now. As mentioned earlier, there's going to be a couple things we need to circle back once we get the data manager in place. But from the results of the poll I put up regarding what modules people wanted to see, the next one is going to be the environment time manager. Now, with that, I will obviously be doing that for the next mini series within this bigger series. And when I get towards the end of that one, I'll obviously mention it in the video. I'm also going to throw up a poll because I'm going to do the top 2 voted modules instead of just going through them in that order. It just gives people a chance to change their mind or pick something new because a better option came up. But as always, folks, thanks for watching. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Doing that typical YouTuber thing, so I found I have to. Please feel free to like the video if you enjoyed, dislike if you disliked it. Leave a comment below. Feel free to subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, I have both a channel membership option within YouTube, or I have Patreon. Right now, just because I don't have a lot of time, Patreon is literally just your way of saying thanks. Channel members do get a early access to my videos at the contributor and above level. So, but as always, folks, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.